So today we're going to talk about breeding zebrafish. The first thing that's really important is to put gloves on. Zebrafish have a microbe that lives on its surface of its skin and can be infectious to humans. So we're going to put a breeding tank together first. The first thing is a reservoir. Second is a piece that actually has these little slits. I'll talk to you about what that does in a moment. We're going to put the two together. Then you actually have a separator which goes in to the zebrafish tank. And the way in which we figure out if it's actually in there is I jiggle it a little and just make sure that that's appropriately placed. And then we're going to have a top. So again, 4 parts, put them together, and then bring them into the zebrafish room. So what we're going to do is then fill this up, add fish, label it, and we're doing this the night before we actually breed. So there are a wide variety of zebrafish that we use in the lab. They are all labeled. So the label on the zebrafish tank is going to tell you the strain involved. It's also going to tell you the date at which the zebrafish tank last was bred. And it will also tell you the approximate number of embryos produced by that set of fish at that time. So before you breed, you'll want to know which strain you want to use, and you can talk to me about that. After you assemble your zebrafish tank, you're going to actually fill it almost all the way full using the system water. The reason we use the system water is that this is what the fish are used to. It is pH, it has the proper amount of salt, and it doesn't have any floating material. So we just open this up and let it fill. What we're going to do is we're going to put 2 males and 2 females on either side. In the evening, they will produce pheromones, and those pheromones will induce breeding behavior in the morning when the lights come on. These fish are on a light cycle, so it's 14 hours light, 10 hours dark. When the lights come on, which is at 8:15 in the morning, that induces them into the breeding behavior. Fill this almost all the way up. Turn the system off and move these over to the side. Then what I'm going to do is grab a net from the side of the tank and then choose the particular tank that I'll be working with. So I'm going to be using TL's number 7. All tanks are paired, male and female, with a single sex in each tank. In order to get the fish out, you turn off the water. You remove the green. And then you net 2 males and 2 females. It is particularly important not to sweep the net up, but rather sweep it forward. This will allow you to not have fish jump out of the tank as you're trying to get them. So what I typically do is I actually look at the fish from the front rather than from the top. This allows me to have a better angle on them, and I simply just sweep forward. Once a fish is in there, you can pinch it off, but not actually touch the fish. And you're going to want to do this quite swiftly. So what I do is I pinch it off, I move it over, I flip it, and I simply move the fish in as such. What you're trying to avoid in doing this is getting the fish stuck in the net, or you actually physically harming the fish through physical force. So I've added 1 male here, so I'm going to add 1 more. Okay, so again, I swept forward. None of the fish were jumping up. They were rather following it forward over, flip the net, and now I have 2 males in there. Now I'm going to move on to my females. Females are going to have a rounder belly. They're going to be less stealth looking. So I'm going to sweep forward. I got 2 females in here now. Pinch off, and they're going to go in the other side. And that's it. So after they're in there, you're going to want to put the lid on. Then you are going to grab a piece of tape. And you're going to write the tank from which those fish were taken. It's very important to know what the background of the fish is. So all I write is TL7. And then those fish can go in the incubator overnight. We typically start this process after 3 p.m. in the evening, and you can do it until about 8 at night. After that, the lights will go out. So after we have these in, we move them carefully over to our incubator, which also has lights. We put them in the incubator, and we shut the door. So now that we're done putting fish in the tanks, what we're going to do is put the green cover back on, feed the tube through this second hole, and turn the water on. Now you're going to want to turn it on so that the fish are getting circulation, but the water level needs to stay about 3/4 of an inch to an inch below the top. So if the water is too vigorous, it will come up to the top of the tank and allow for fish to escape. You want to make sure that when you breed, even if there are no fish left in the tank, that you put the water back on in order to have circulation. After that, you're going to then want to put which fish you've actually bred on our breeding record sheet. And so what you'll do is put your date, your initials, the time at which you bred, the tank, and the number of adults and embryos. This is really, really important. After that point, then you're also going to write that on the tank tag. This is a way for us to make sure that the fish are being bred consistently, but not being bred too much. So it's 8:15 in the morning, the fish have just woken up. What we're going to do is elicit zebrafish breeding behavior. So zebrafish come from India originally, the Ganges River in particular. They breed on the sandy shores. And so to mimic a sandy shore environment which has both a deep end and a shallow end, we actually are going to shift this mesh upwards in the tank. Give them both a shallow end where they release their eggs and a deep end in which they can retreat. So in the morning what you're going to do is take off the top, and I usually put it next door, and you're going to remove this divider. Then I put the tank top back on. This will make sure the fish don't escape. And then I just take individual corners now the fish can be manipulated. So you're not actually moving the water, you're simply moving that insert. What I do is I just flip it so that one end is shallow, and the shallowness can be about 1/4 inch in depth. And then I put that divider in to create some stability. If the fish are breeding, what you will see is males will be chasing females, and the females will be spending a lot of time rubbing their bellies on that shallow end. And as they breed, you are going to see deposition of eggs on the bottom. This mesh insert also does not allow for the fish to eat their own eggs, which they often do. They're an excellent protein source.
After leaving the fish for 30 or 45 minutes to breed, the fish must be returned to their original tanks. Make sure that you return males and females to their respective tanks. If you are having trouble determining the sex of a fish, ask someone for help. Remove the meshed insert from the tank. Pour the water from the tank through a sieve to catch the embryos. Rinse the tank out with Daniel's solution and pour the solution through the sieve to ensure that you have all the embryos. The sieve may have filtered out other materials besides embryos, so use a squirt bottle to gently wash the embryos and isolate them from the other materials. You can now dump the water. Invert the sieve over a petri dish and use Daniel's solution to wash the embryos into the dish. Be sure to label the petri dish appropriately. You now have isolated embryos that you can raise or use in experimental procedures.
Fish nuts can often grow bacteria or fungus. So what we do is we actually put them in an antibacterial agent called net wash. This is where they are at all times. What you're going to do is take a net of whatever size, there are a variety of sizes, you're going to bang it against the net wash, then you're going to put it into clean water, bang it once more, and now you have a clean net. Once you've used that net, then you put it back in the net wash.
Zebrafish tanks should be cleaned using RO water, which can be found in the autoclave room on the 5th floor of Carnegie. Washed tanks should be set up to dry outside the zebrafish room.